Houston, I'm John Herder. Tuesday, the 15th day of August. Great as always to have you along, everybody. From the Experts is a virtual networking opportunity flow accelerator, helping leaders across industries connect very quickly in a brief, moderated, interactive show format. It's like a TED Talk with interaction. If all goes well, curiosity spark, new ideas accelerate action, and you may have helped yourself or someone else solve a problem, make a connection, reaching the opportunity faster. Welcome to the fourth episode in our series, Helping Business Leaders Solving Problems with AI, in partnership with Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. On the show today, why enterprises need a full stack AI platform. Folks, help me welcome guest expert Shrikant Vijayaraghavan. Shri has more than 25 years in the tech industry, and he started his career in the electronic design automation and went on to spend over a decade building data center infrastructure products for multiple tier one OEMs. He is passionate about emerging tech and helping clients and partners achieve success. Shri loves breaking down complex problems into understandable pieces. And in his current role as Global Head Strategic Alliances for NVIDIA Software, Shri has built several AI solutions in partnership with HPE, NVIDIA, and a very dynamic ISV ecosystem, targeting very specific use cases such as computer vision, speech AI, and generative AI. Shri, grateful to have you on the show. Shed a little light and break down this complex challenge that companies face when they're scaling their AI projects from pilot to production across the enterprise. Over to you.
Thank you, John. Thank you for the introduction. Excited to be here. And like you said, this is a place where we want to share our learnings, exchange ideas, and walk away with something that we all have learned, including myself, right? So it's not supposed to be a one-way dump of information of any sorts. So having said that, I think the last 3 to 4 months has been a wild ride, and I think everybody can agree with me. Given that this whole space of generative AI has sort of woken up the enterprises, and then everybody has this sense of how can I participate in this journey, in this AI journey, and the reality is that we all have been consuming bits and pieces of this technology over a period of time, but we have been just to state it, dumb consumers, right? We all have used Siri, we all have been on Amazon's page and whatnot, all of that, which involves AI technology, but really, there is no touch and feel of what is actually happening. And, our CEO, Jensen, talks about this a lot, where he says, this is the iPhone moment of artificial intelligence. So the way I like to actually explain it is, the reason why iPhone had this huge impact is how we as users were interacting with the phone. Prior to that, there was no user interface. There was no touch and feel of something that you have in your hand. And I think the same thing is happening right now with generative AI in this space, because it is not a science project. It is not, it's still a science project, but it's not, just meant for people with advanced degrees and complex programming, because this, tools like ChatGPT has simplified how you interact with AI tools, number one. Number two, it's not just consuming, you are able to actually use it to be more productive, whether you want to drive, something to your business, build business outcomes, you're able to do that. So how you interact with AI has completely changed. And I think really that is what is the iPhone moment for generative AI. But everything comes with a set of problems, right? Having this thing, Gen AI has gone completely ballistic, and now there is a race. Every enterprise wants to figure out how to implement it. How do they benefit from it? How do they create competitive advantage? How do they build differentiated products? So what happens, anytime there is a big hype cycle in technology is enterprises just, or portions of enterprises just run off and try to solve their problem any way they can, right? And typically this creates some level of silo. a line of business. To use a simple example so we can comprehend it, might be a little bit dated, but say, for example, a mid-sized retailer might decide to go online for their sales and then figure out, hey, I need to have some kind of a recommender attached to my e-commerce engine. While it might not be a cohesive, comprehensive top-down strategy for AI for the enterprise, they are going to go ahead and get it done anyway, right? So they're going to find the tools. They're going to jump into whatever infrastructure is available for them, maybe a cloud provider, and go ahead and implement it. Now, there's a good chance they might succeed, but is there something that can be scaled across the enterprise as a comprehensive AI strategy to drive business goals? We don't know. It's possible, but it is probably not the best way to approach the problem. So what I would like to do in the next 5 to 6 minutes, let me share my screen. I don't have many slides, just 1 or 2 slides, is to set up the problem statement and talk about how some of the enterprises are approaching. Hopefully you can see my screen. John, is it coming out well? It's good. Okay. What I have learned is that it's a three-legged stool. When an enterprise starts embarking in this journey of making AI a part of their strategy, typically it's a three-legged stool. And what I mean by that is, what I'm trying to explain in this slide. Everything starts with the IT department, really, because this is the group that is providing you the standardized tool sets, that you use to get your daily job done. They're keeping your company's environment secure. They're keeping your data secure. And there is a reason for that standardization that brings a lot of efficiencies from a cost effectiveness in how they support the entire company and their employees. So they definitely need to be in the table when we are trying to define the AI strategy. The second leg of the stool is really the line of business. So these guys are trying to find solutions. They are trying to be time to market. They're trying to meet their numbers, their revenues. So clearly there is a sense of urgency that they have, but they also have the business proposition in front of them. So we have to understand, it cannot be just AI for the sake of AI. Is there a reason why AI is making those business goals, more easy to accomplish? Is something that needs to be debated. So they definitely deserve to be on the table. And the third and the most important one is also the AI practitioner. So these guys need the right tools, the right software, the right infrastructure. Of course, they would ask for endless compute resources, which is not possible. But having the right set of tools get them, as much closer as possible to the promised land. So it's the combination of really all three personas coming together to really define how you want to go about defining the strategy and how you want to execute the strategy. And when you do that, really then a clear set of requirements come out on when you're trying to standardize on an AI platform. What are the requirements? What are the key features that you should be looking at? And that's what I try to capture in this diagram here. And it's very self-explanatory, but I want to use some examples from the industry to see if we can digest the concepts here. So I'm going to start on the right side and then move my way in. But let's start with the enterprise, grade security, stability, and support. There is nothing new here. Enterprises have been buying software. They've been buying software to solve for specific workloads, specific use cases that they have. Whether you're building an ERP system, you have a supply chain automation or whatever that is, they go and buy software from established software companies, whether it's SAP or Oracle or Microsoft or VMware. These are people from whom they consume the software. And there's a reason for that, because they use good, sound software development practices. They make sure the software is patched, it's secure, it's versioned, it's supported 24/7. So there is a set of qualities that come with the software. So first and foremost, when you are looking for an AI platform, um, the first priority is to make sure that it comes with all of these enterprise grade qualities. And the second one I have here, which is runs anywhere, is table stakes these days for all things software. Customers run on premises, customers run on the cloud, they run on multiple clouds, they run hybrid. So reality is whatever platform you choose to use obviously has to run across many combinations of these environments. And of course, whether it is in the data center or at the edge or at the cloud, that becomes table stakes. So these two are my first two priorities. And at this point, I would like to invite a good friend and colleague of mine from VMware, because obviously they do this all day long, to share some of her perspectives in what she's seeing with customers. So Rupa, welcome to the show. And if you could share your learnings as you onboard AI workloads into VMware, what are you seeing out there?
Sure. Thanks, Srikanth, for sharing this arena with me. So I work for VMware and I'm responsible for partner solutions. And Srikanth and I and HP have been collaborating on providing AI-ready infrastructure. And what we've seen as trends is it's progressing, right? It's now a situation where customers and channel partners or integrators are looking for hybrid cloud model. Unlike before, where it would be either in their location or it could be public cloud, but I think that is maturing now, where they're looking for more hybrid deployments. It could be virtualized, it could be containerized. And what they're looking for is something that is usable for multiple AI scenarios, right? They're not looking to provision dedicated hardware for just one kind of AI modeling. Instead, they would like to use it for multi-purpose. And I think where this industry is moving, specifically for AI workloads, is in terms of how we can optimize the hardware. I mean, everybody is looking to see how they can maximize on their investment. And I think GPUs being one of the key essentials for AI ML, where VMware and NVIDIA and several other companies are working together, is to see how do we maximize on the GPUs and how do we distribute workload. Could be virtualized, could be containerized. And in some of the analysis that we've done, we found that by leveraging GPUs in some of these AI ML workloads, you can free up almost 90% of your CPU cores for other workloads, which is a big gain. So you're actually using your investment very effectively. So this is the extraordinary power of using your AI ML in a more democratized infrastructure model.
Yeah, I think that those are great points, right? And to add, a couple of more comments on top of that is, so when you're and from the other side of it, when you're looking for an AI software vendor, it becomes really important that it runs on traditional standardized IT environments. So you want to look for an AI software vendor that's working closely with the VMwares of the world, making sure that software is optimized for the highest performance and cost effectiveness. So that's definitely a part of why we say, hey, make sure this is enterprise grade, make sure this is cloud native, and I think the partnership with VMware is a great example. And as we move into the left two items I have here, and these are very, very interesting. Of course, Rupa mentioned a little bit about how we want to use GPUs and optimize them, for running AI workloads. So having the right infrastructure is absolutely important, because if you think about it, yes, it is going to need AI is going to need. I wouldn't call it specialized anymore because it is becoming more and more mainstream. But there are certain things that are important. Everything is running in parallel in AI, a lot of parallel computing. You need really big bandwidth requirements. Think about it, if you ask Siri something and if it takes 5 minutes to get a response, that'll be a terrible user experience. Having really low latency responses is directly dependent on having the right infrastructure. And again, this is not new. That's one of my things that you will hear from me is saying a lot of these experiences that enterprises have gone through, why should it be new for AI? Yes, AI is just ramping up, but every requirement we have had in the past is the same. So another example, using something like, hey, if you're running big databases where you're running a lot of query and you want a quicker response, you're going to buy systems which have a lot of memory. You're running big data workloads, you're going to buy systems with a lot of storage. So same way, having the right infrastructure that takes the guesswork out saves you a lot of time. And of course, it's a direct reflection on TCO as well. And the second part of that, the speed of speeding the time to production, this comes from how much help does the vendor give you. So when we talk full stack, we look at what we call the layer cake. So clearly there is infrastructure. I just talked about it, the right infrastructure. Above the infrastructure, in the middle where you have all of the drivers and the firmwares and all of that stuff, which needs to be optimized to run at the best performance with the infrastructure. And above the middle, you have the APIs and end user applications. And the applications, once again, must be optimized to run on the two layers below it. So if you look at it, at every layer, there is a degree of performance that is increasing if this whole stack is optimized to work together. So one of the ways that people can really accelerate is having examples. Very simple. You don't have to start always from scratch. There are tons of AI models and AI containers out there. Of course, we have to go after something that is more reliable, which is why we are talking that, hey, make sure they are supported. But using NVIDIA as an example, we have put out a lot of open source containers out there, which are already ready to grab and use for specific use cases. There are also AI workflows, which is more like a opinionated version. Somebody has done it. One of my business school professors in my new ventures class used to say, if you want to be an entrepreneur and if you think you have a great idea, there are 20 other people who have already had that great idea somewhere in the world, right? So using that as a parallel, if you're trying to build something from scratch, first look, probably it's already there in NGC or it's an open AI or one of these Hugging Face. There are many places where you could get a head start and reduce your project time significantly. So these two, having the right infrastructure that is good for AI acceleration and having examples and workflows and containers that give you a head start are super important. So once more, I would like to invite a colleague of mine from NVIDIA, Vivek, to share some of his experiences as he works closely with channel partners and the broader ecosystem of ISVs. Vivek, if you could share your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Sri. Thanks for having me. So I've been with NVIDIA for coming up about 6 years, primarily working with partners in how they can help their customers choose the right platforms to develop and deploy AI initiatives. I think a few key trends have emerged related to the necessity of full stack AI platforms, as Sri was mentioning, meaning the right software optimized to run on the right infrastructure specifically for AI. So one thing that NVIDIA introduced was AI certified platforms that provide customers the performance, the reliability, scalability, and with the added benefit of increased operational efficiency. So we've launched a suite of AI certified platforms with, in collaboration with partners such as HPE. The second piece, which I think Sri also alluded to, is the need for supporting these AI practitioners as they invest all this time in these AI projects. The community has largely relied on open source. However, this has also meant that there were just too many choices, perhaps, maybe a lot of starting points. And I think more importantly, not necessarily as much clarity in what to do if, let's say, a model broke. So a curated repository that consists of open source models that practitioners typically use however optimized and more importantly supported, was another key aspect to success that we found. And then these AI projects, they affect the top and the bottom lines of these organizations investing in them. And so I think, again, a point that Sri made is a set of pre-trained models that are relevant in that domain allows these practitioners to significantly accelerate the time to market and the time to insight. And so, to these last couple of points that I've made, NVIDIA software stack, which we refer to as NVIDIA AI Enterprise, addresses this. And, it allows these practitioners to start at the 80-yard line. And so many of our customers have seen massive improvements by using such a full stack AI platform, as much as 10x in some cases related to computer vision as an example. And, it's this full stack hardware software platform approach with pre-trained models that's allowed them to do this. So it clearly confirms what Sri has been observing around access to optimized accelerated computing infrastructure, proven AI workflows, and pre-trained models being the key pillars to success.
Yeah, thanks, Vivek. I think that's a great point in the end, which is we have seen the 10x improvement is a significant one, and these are what we call pre-trained models, and there are various use cases, of course, but we have seen tremendous success in the computer vision space, which is great. So bringing all of this together, let me close my talk. And there is this. It's not just 4. There is 4 plus 1, which I'm not showing in this slide. It is great that if you find solutions which can satisfy all of these 4 categories, it's wonderful. These are going to be that's definitely heading in the right direction. But what I have also seen is that a lot of times, even with the right platform, moving from your concept to POC to production is not an easy task, mainly because of lack of competency, new areas, new use cases. So I think we are seeing more and more customers relying on service delivery partners, system integrators who have developed competency in actually building these projects. So it is always good to learn the best practices from what some of these delivery partners in your first couple of projects, and then ramp from there. I would like to get some feedback from Andy Lin from Mark III, who does this on a daily basis. So Andy, if you could share your experiences with customers, that would be great.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. So I'm Andy Lin, CTO Mark III. We're a NVIDIA lead partner and HPE partner, and we specialize in working with organizations with building out their AI centers of excellence, among a couple other areas, HPC and Omniverse around simulation. Like I pointed out, tying it all together, absolutely. The way we think about it is, to build out a centralized center of excellence, of which it's half technology, half people, process, culture. Step one is obviously educating communities on tool sets and standards and ways to help people further their research or build their products using techniques that work very well on top of a centralized platform. Step two is rolling out the platform, like we've been talking about here. Really key step. And the step 3 is really getting the communities to organically use it within the context of the products they're building, the research they're working on, without disrupting their flow, right? So if you focus really on step 2, absolutely, this is a really key piece around a full stack AI platform anchored by AI Enterprise, like Vivek talked about, ideally on top of sort of world-class AI-based infrastructure anchored by HPE and NVIDIA. And yeah, this process does take some time. We've been working in the space for the last 8 years in order to build that platform so that teams can iterate at high velocity and quickly, right? Does take some expertise and the ability to work across that domain in a lot of different ways. We've worked with a lot of different institutions that have once rolled out a strategy like this. It's been able to increase their velocity exponentially as far as like the number of iterations. When you build a model, you got to iterate quickly. Innovation is all about iterations, right? It's hard to hit KPIs straight up because you don't know what you don't know. So the key is how do you make it so you can go as quickly as possible. So full stack AI platform strategy is a huge part of that.
Thank you, Andy. So I will, I think we have set up the problem statement and some of the key requirements of why we need a full stack platform. I think at this point I would like to turn it over to the group to ask questions and share their experiences, and then go from there. So John, I'll turn it back to you to look at some of the questions. Chat is busy, so let's look at some of the questions. Yeah.
No, thank you very much. So this is when we move to the group discussion, and if you're new to the show, Gus is going to put the group discussion questions in there, but of course you have your own. So you can raise your hand using the tool. We'll go back to the chat here and answer a couple of those questions. And I'll also call on folks just to share your take, and keep it to 60 seconds or so we can keep it interactive. And if I call on you and you don't have anything you want to add, you can pass. That's A-okay. So with that, we're all about what are the problems you're trying to solve. And I'd say, Michelle, you came on early. We talked a little bit, can you tell us, who you're with, what you're doing, and what your take is here?
Well, I currently work with 24/7 AI out of San Jose, customer service company. But I've done the same job in many different roles, and I find the same thing. I'm lucky enough to have a large team of data scientists, about right now 45 people. My last role was about 110 data scientists. So we were able, there weren't platforms, right? Like a few years ago when I was at Elsevier, AWS was coming out with SageMaker, and the platforms were just coming out. I found, and of course, everyone in our tech department, our engineering was like, oh, we can use this. But what they don't understand is I have data scientists who are actually building these models. No one wants to rewrite them. They have the libraries with these models in there, and we have our own data running. But that also requires us to build our own model monitoring software, the infrastructure, all of that. And even with these large team of data scientists, I finally had to tell my CEO, I can't have any more data scientists until we have more engineers. I can't have another data scientist because nothing's making it into production. And that, it really resonated, that alignment with the business side. For me, it's product and engineering and making sure we're all working off the same roadmap. And also making sure that my data scientists can work within that framework. So even though I have people that I've hired out of academia, it's like, yeah, we work in the Agile framework. They're like, yeah, but I have nothing to contribute. I just do research for the first 2 weeks. Yeah, make the process transparent. You read a paper, you try the lowest hanging fruit, then you do improvements, right? But put that in the Agile cycle so everyone's on the same page between product and engineering. I had one case where data scientists were working on a problem, and within 2 months, we were able to build a model, a hybrid model. The work was good enough to publish at an ML conference and also to get a patent out of, but it took 8 months for this model to get into production so our customers could use it. And that's because we didn't have alignment with engineering. We didn't have, to get at that point, to get ML models into our enterprise stack, customer-facing stack, was a lot of work. We don't have the data engineers. There's this gap between engineering and data scientists. Right. So my data scientists, they want to build the best model and get the best F-score. Whereas, when you're actually running on a production system, maybe having fewer features gives you a better runtime. And you don't need those models because there's too much lag, right? And so it's that misalignment that's really been problematic in all of my roles, frankly. So yeah, I am curious, since I've been doing this for a long time and a lot of infrastructure has popped up. One thing that I find hard about that is actually it can be very hard to work a new infrastructure into your current systems, right? And then also to modify it and work the way we need to. So I do try this a lot, and I'm currently building ML infrastructure now, and we are looking at vendors for this as opposed to building it in-house. But we want something that we can update ourselves and have a lot of flexibility. We just don't want to use our resources to build the infrastructure. So yeah, it's a huge problem.
Any feedback to that, Sri, or anybody else that you've heard?
Yeah, some of these are classic, some portions are, obviously classic, ML ops problems that, Michelle was talking about, going from stage to stage, the pipelining of events, having control over the events. So, there are tools to help with some of those. And then, of course, from an infrastructure perspective, she's right in the sense that, again, I'll go back. You want to have software and hardware that are, completely backward compatible, and you're not actually going through the cycles of having to update your software to match the new infrastructure. So we take that, very seriously, of course, in our company, that anything that we build, we always make sure that the code is going to be backward compatible. Everything is built on what we call CUDA, another programming language. So these are classic problems, and yes, and we see this all the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I would just
What-
add, I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead, Pamela, and introduce yourself.
Hi, yeah, Pamela Weiss Martinez with Whirlpool. I was just going to comment on Michelle's talking. Of course, Shrink definitely hit it on the head. I mean, these are classic ML problems, but the problem is that we've been seeing it for a while, and so getting to that right recipe, if you would, and it's a three-legged stool. From my perspective, I came out of a lot of work in the federal sector where there was supercomputer for a long time and models being ran, statisticians across the boards, so this has always been a problem, and it was traditionally from that perspective that they didn't understand. There was a lack of understanding, and maybe that still exists, lack of understanding that you need both data science and
Yeah.
data engineers and IT. So
Very
you
much.
need all three to
Right.
make it work. Yeah.
And I think another bottleneck is the self-service aspect. I think more and more, a lot of the LOBs are getting used to self-servicing infrastructure, which I think is required for AI/ML. The impression is that it's a very unique and customized infrastructure that is required, but that's what is changing slowly, where they can use their central IT and be able to do self-service and provision the required pieces of software that is required for doing AI/ML models as well.
So where I'm hearing from you, Rupa, is that there's an expectation.
Yep.
It doesn't exist. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think we see in some places where they're trying to implement those, but I think you have to go across the hump in terms of scalability, and that's where a lot of companies are investing to see how to enable self-service.
There is this transition that needs to happen, because many of the use cases and workloads that enterprises have been running for a very long time, the discussion could start as an IT discussion just because of the maturity of the problem, right? So somebody that is doing, as an example, if you're doing, your backend, HR systems or ERPs, or these are very well understood. IT has enough competency to actually take it and run. A lot of times, I think, a line of business person not even have to be involved. But usually in the last, it's changing, but when it is AI, it's like, hey, it's that guy, that's that's the data scientist problem, go deal with them. And I think a lot of the things that we are doing, or many companies are doing that are working in this space, is to, well, number one, you hear this a lot, we all say we want to democratize AI, and it's a very broad statement, easier said than done, but there are baby steps being taken towards this. Like the first one is we are trying to sort of level set the infrastructure, right? Not always thinking AI is going to need this big supercomputer that's sitting in somewhere in the data center. First, we are trying to bring all of that capabilities into mainstream infrastructure, mainstream computers where you can actually run them. Right? That's one part of it.
Right.
Once that happens, it has to integrate with the self-service portals and the IT environments and such. So there is some more work to do here, actually. And I think it'll happen over the next couple of years. It'll become more streamlined.
So another question to the group: how do you actually determine? This is from Usha. How do you determine success criteria for AI pilot projects? What does success look like? And I know Michelle gave some answers, but let's hear from some other folks first. You can look in the chat and see her responses.
I like some of the answers. I guess what I'm confused about is that the scope definition is the thing. Are we evaluating our ability to define what we want? Are we evaluating a particular vendor? All of which have their own criteria and frameworks, right? I think success ultimately is business value delivery against time, right? But it's more complicated than that. And so I think part of what I'm interested in, and I'll kind of wait until I have my turn for a question, right? Is what that looks like, as the biggest bottleneck is not the technology, right? Because we're finding that it's not infrastructure. We're finding that it's not the performance of the models that much anymore, right? It's how quickly and how agile is the organization in onboarding the tools and technology in a changing landscape. If that makes sense. So thanks.
Thank you.
David, you also had another question. This was more technical. You put it in the chat.
I can make it not technical. And the not technical version of that question is essentially self-supervised models with an objective, given the right access, right? Can assume the AWS role that allows them to deploy the infrastructure, allows them to update the schema based on the unstructured text and do the thing, right? That's kind of where we're headed sooner rather than later, which is why I'm really interested in event-driven monitoring of a vector space. I have an Arise hat on. I love Arise as a vendor, but 3 months ago I pitched this idea, and they're, I assume, still working on stuff that does this sort of monitoring. Until then, I started kind of writing my own stuff. I got active on GitHub again, which has been fun. But I'm serious when I say that, in a real way, if we can't do something as simple as inputs within a set center, right, and a radius around that, kind of draw a little circle, a sphere, right, in a vector space. If we can't monitor that for X number of inputs against a Y number of time and Z Euclidean distance or something, then we're not going to have observability into what these models are doing, period. Much less making sure that they're effectively, following the objective that's been given. So that was my attempt at a less technical version, John. I apologize. So.
Thank you. Other questions?
John, I have a question. This is Idar, and I'll take it to a totally different level. The great observation I'm making here is that there are lots of complicated problems to solve still. There's talk about AI in so many different directions, negative and concerning, being abused, et cetera, et cetera. But the positive use of this technology is outweighs all the negatives, I guess, in so many ways, including people like on this call who are intelligent, experienced, forward-looking individuals who are there to help solve these problems. And I think that's fantastic. Actually, it's a very uplifting few minutes here of observations from my perspective. Well, I have one question though to all of you who are working in this space, and that is, how difficult is it to convince senior leaders to take the plunge to actually get to this investment, because it clearly will have long-term positive effects. But it is also a climb up a hill where we need great project managers and like some of the practitioners here, like Michelle, who has loads of experience doing this. I think is what is it going to take to make the leadership understand that this investment is absolutely required at this point.
If I can make a joke and have a serious answer, go for it, Daniel.
I have a couple of quick comments for that, Idar. So first for your first point about weighing the positives and negatives very quickly, right? This is a session by itself, but I'll make a very quick observation that for every, when I say enterprise grade AI software, it must be, and actually you gave me a great idea. I need to add that to my slide, to be honest with you, because it must automatically come with the right guardrails, which is going to make sure that, bias and toxicity is removed, from some of those AI models. So I think that's going to be part and parcel of this ecosystem. Second, as far as how do you convince your senior leadership, I if you're a believer in numbers, or not, I see this all the time. And I know, like, the most recent one I saw yesterday was 95% of the global 1,000 companies have at least 2 to 3 AI projects, which are actually in either pilot or progress. I think it came out yesterday. I don't know, it's one of, I can't remember who it was, but so I think I would say that realization has hit the C-suite, and I don't. I'm hoping that it is not a burden anymore. It is more about how quickly can you execute is the bigger question. Yeah.
Anybody else? Different take on that?
May I add, John?
Go for it quickly.
Okay, awesome. Okay, yeah. So, when coming to convincing the senior leaders, we need to make sure that if we can be able to, once we say like, okay, it has this is the ROI that we can benefit out of it, and what are the benefits from this, we can put together a demo quickly and like through a POC. A quick and dirty POC to showcase, what is the benefit out of it when we productize and time to market it. So that could be also give a competitive advantage when explaining it to senior leaders. Of course, making sure we take into account the stakeholders. Because I've done this where it was convincing the senior leaders is has been hard. So our team will put together a POC to showcase what exactly it is. It won't be like a full-fledged POC, but still, but what are the benefits it would be? Yeah, I wanted to add
I
that.
completely agree. Nothing like the art of the possible and actually visualizing what is actually possible, even if it is at a pilot level, can go a very long way. Completely agree with that comment.
Yeah.
Just a quick comment. I'm sorry, go ahead. I thought you were
Go
done.
ahead.
Sorry.
No, please.
No, just a quick comment. Those are, sort of that thinking is just very traditional sort of architecture EA thinking where we define our use cases, right? What is it that problem we're trying to solve? And so really that is the starting point. And then you can develop your KPIs or whatever, your value streams and all those things that go along with it and the impacts. So just wanted to add that. Sorry.
Got anything else?
Where it starts, sometimes it starts at the use case level and actually the architecture level, and you could actually figure out, because the true extent of what is possible sometimes is not understood, right? And then there is a lot of serendipitous, business outcomes that you actually understand once you actually start architecting it. So a lot of learning, it's a chicken and egg thing, in many cases. Yeah.
Last comment before we sign off? I think that does it then. Folks, how was the expert talk and discussion today? Please take the FTE show survey on your screen and let us know. Our post-show notes will hit your mailbox very soon with the slide deck, expert resource links that Sri and his team have put together, as well as attendee contact for follow-up. Next up on From the Experts, Solving Problems with AI continues with our new episode. September 12th, NVIDIA shares their vision on the future of high-performance computing. With over 2,300 members, 20,000 followers across 25 industries, the FTE network is growing fast, thanks to you. Check out our library of expert content and never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube, Apple, and Spotify channels, and be sure and register for our next show at fte.network. Folks, we're out of time. Thank you once again, Sri, and to all of you from the experts on the FTE show. We'll see you next time.